Good evening. Good evening, and thank you for joining us for a community briefing on inauguration preparations in the District of Columbia. My name is Tomas Talamonte, and I'm Deputy Chief of Staff to Mayor Muriel Bowser. Before we hear from our speakers today, I want to remind about a few housekeeping items. If you're watching live on the stream, you can ask your questions for our speakers directly on Twitter or Facebook. If you're joining us by phone, you can press 0 at any time during the call to be entered into the question queue. We're going to have short remarks, and then we will move to Q&A. The call is slotted for 30 minutes, so we want to allow as much time for Q&A as possible. We are joined by the Director of the District's Homeland Security and Emergency Management Agency, Dr. Christopher Rodriguez, and Acting Chief of Police Robert Conti from the Metropolitan Police Department. So we will start now, but again, as a reminder, if you have any questions at any time during the call, you can press 0 to be entered into the question queue. We will now start with Director Rodriguez.
Thank you, Tomas, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk to you this evening about our inauguration preparations. I want to thank Chief Conti and the men and women of the Metropolitan Police Department who every day work very hard and tirelessly to keep all of our residents safe and secure. As many of you know, the events of January 6th and the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol has really compelled us to look again at our planning and our preparations for the inauguration. Mayor Bowser requested of the federal government and received a pre-disaster emergency declaration from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, which allows the district to have direct access to key federal resources, not only from the law enforcement standpoint, but also for health and human services resources. The mayor also requested that the national special security event period for the inauguration be extended from January 19th to the 21st to the 13th to the 21st. So many of our residents will be experiencing road closures in and around the downtown area, which began a couple days ago and will continue as we move closer to January 20th. One of the things that I want to remind our residents to do is to please sign up for our text alerts throughout this inaugural period, and you can do that by texting INAUG 2021, that's INAUG 2021, INAUG 2021 to 888-777. That's 888-777. We have seen tens of thousands of people already sign up for this text alert system, and it's going to be our way as district government for communicating with you, the residents of the district, throughout the inaugural period. Also want to make sure that everyone is looking and following Mayor Bowser's social media, again, for updates on any events that are going on, and also follow the Metropolitan Police Department and HSEMA, the Homeland Security and Emergency Management Agency, on all of your social media platforms to get the latest information. And with that, I will turn it to Acting Chief Conti.
Good afternoon. It is certainly an honor and a privilege to be here with our residents of the District of Columbia to discuss some very, very, very important issues. I really want to get to the questions that the residents may have, but I can tell you that the men and women of the Metropolitan Police Department are working extremely hard with our federal partners to ensure a safe inauguration, but not only a safe inauguration, that we have safe communities as well. That's very important to us. As a result of the mayor's request for pre-disaster relief designation, as well as the designation of the National Special Security Event. By having those things, it essentially frees up resources for the Metropolitan Police Department so that we can do our job of ensuring safe communities in the District of Columbia. There's going to be a lot of traffic closures that are going on, that are already going on, as the director mentioned. And these things they're coming out, and there's going to be some inconveniences. But I think that as we just continue to work through this in our city, as we host this presidential inauguration, I'm hoping that we're able to work through some of those inconveniences. I think it's important for the public to know that this security event, the overall responsibility of it, falls on the shoulders of the Secret Service, but the MPD is very much a close ally in terms of making those things happen that need to happen to ensure that we have safe communities here in the District of Columbia. So we'll continue to do the things that we need to do. We'll have a full activation of our department. We're requesting resources. Law enforcement agencies are confirmed to come in from all over the country to support this effort. In addition to that, we'll have the support of the D.C. National Guard and other guardsmen from around the country that will be coming here to assist us here with making sure that this is a safe inauguration and that our cities are safe. I would ask that the public, that the 712,000 D.C. residents heed the mayor's call to watch this event virtually. We certainly will mitigate any threats or any issues that we need to deal with at the event or the locations that surround the event or in the communities. But it would be a huge help to us if people just really stayed home, watched this event virtually, and allow us to do the things that we need to do to ensure a safe event. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. So we are now going to move to the Q&A portion of the program. I do want to remind everyone, again, if you have any questions, you can press 0 now to be entered into the question queue, or if you're joining us virtually on one of our live streams on Twitter or Facebook, you can ask your questions directly there as well. We're going to go to David Sobelson in Ward 6. Your line is unmuted, David.
Thank you. This is David Sobelson from Ward 6. I do hope that during this period, MPD is able to pay attention to ordinary crimes. Inconvenience are a small price to pay for democracy. I would like to find out how broad the closure of downtown is going to be. I have a bank that has branches at F and 12th and K and 17th Northwest, and I'm wondering if their branches are closed for the next week, as their telephone outgoing message indicates, because of a decision by the bank itself or because the city has closed that area. That's F as in Frank and 12th Street Northwest, and K and 17th Street Northwest. Thank you.
So thank you for that question, David. So the perimeter, obviously it's a very large perimeter, but I think it's important to note that in the area where your bank is located, people can still have access to that. You should still be able to access your bank. There's a very hard perimeter that is established with fencing and blockades, et cetera, that people will not be able to access, that's closer to the actual site of Pennsylvania Avenue. But many of the streets outside of that, people will still be able to access and we call that the green line. Oftentimes you can identify that. That's where where you will see the National Guard members that will be posted around that traffic perimeter. So you should still be able to access your bank.
Thank you, Chief. We're going to go to our next question coming online from Kat. She asked if Director Rodriguez can repeat the number for people to sign up for text alerts.
Yes, thank you, Kat. So the number is 888-777. And what you're going to do is you're going to text INAUG, as in the first 5 letters of inauguration, INAUG 2021 to 888-777, and you will be signed up for our real-time alerts sent right to your cell phone throughout the inaugural period.
Thank you, Director. We're going to go next to Tina in Ward 6. Tina, your line is unmuted.
Hi, yes, I think I came back in just on the tail end. If someone could repeat the information about the text sign up, that would be great. But my question is, as I'm hearing more and more about traffic restrictions into D.C., I'm wondering whether or not you have recommendations for residents who might need to leave D.C. and then come back in, or if conditions deteriorate and we need to or want to leave the city over the next few days, if there are considerations about which routes might be best or open for that.
Thank you for that question. I guess Dr. Rodriguez can repeat the number for the text tip so that you have that. But specifically with respect to the traffic, The traffic plan that's in place right now, and the Secret Service has gone through multiple iterations of this. I think they're on version 11 right now. So it has been very fluid and changing as the day has gone on, and there's still discussions about what traffic closures need to go into place and when do they need to go into place, so as to not unnecessarily inconvenience residents. With respect to information that's out there, that's out there in Twitter sphere, information that's out there about potential protests. Some of those things are being kind of like game day situation assessments of whether or not we actually need to make those closures, especially when you're talking about bridges and the like. So there's a lot of coordination going on between Secret Service and some of the surrounding jurisdictions, some of the governors, as to when these closures will go into effect. With respect to D.C. proper and what should one do, I think the most important thing that you can do is to sign up for the alerts, make sure that you have the latest information on the traffic from the Secret Service, pushing that information out so that you can kind of follow things as they change, because what I tell you today could very well be different tomorrow depending on the situation that we may encounter tomorrow.
And I can repeat, this is Chris Rodriguez, I can repeat the number. If you could text INAUG, so the first 5 letters of the word inauguration, INAUG, I-N-A-U-G, 2021, INAUG 2021 to 888-777, 888-777, and you'll get the alerts.
Thank you, Director. We're going to go next to Ward 1, Diane Gross, business owner. Diane, your line is unmuted.
Hi, thank you. I was just curious as to, I'm a Ward 2 resident and a Ward 1 business owner, and I know that there's an extensive, obviously, security perimeter. I'm just wondering what happens if folks who are protesting and potentially dangerous are going beyond those perimeters and coming into our neighborhoods, what the security protocol in place is to help us in those neighborhoods.
Thank you for that question, Diane. We have planned for that in the event that something like that happens. The members of the Metropolitan Police Department, we're at full activation. We're on 12-hour shifts to make sure that we have coverage around the clock. And obviously, all of our resources are not dedicated to the downtown zone. That's part of the reason why we have requested such a robust response from the federal government, so that the federal government can take care of business or buildings within the federal government footprint, and the Metropolitan Police Department can still provide quality services to the residents of the District of Columbia. So we intend to do that. We've planned for that. We have plans from each one of the district commanders, and we will certainly ensure that plan is in play leading up to inauguration and Inauguration Day. Thank you.
I would also mention, in addition to what the chief said, you can go to Inauguration.dc.gov and you can download some signs for your business. And this is just one example about trying to make sure that we are creating a safe and secure community. And so please go to Inauguration.dc.gov to print out some of these signs.
All right, thank you, Director. Let's go next to Angela Wilson in Ward 1. Angela, your line is unmuted.
Hello, thank you so much for allowing us to ask questions. Really appreciate this opportunity. Was wondering if churches, houses of worship, and religious institutions may have any additional provisions or protections in light of the rioters' past attacks. Thank you so much.
That's a great question, Angela. And actually, yes, we have. We had a similar call like this with the faith-based institutions in our city the other day. We have a plan that will address that, and we will be able to mitigate any issues that come up at any of our religious institutions. What we've asked of our religious institutions is that if there is something that should take place, that they have working cameras, that they replace the batteries, and making sure that the cameras are working correctly on their property, so that if for a follow-up investigation, if one is needed, we'll have the most information that we need in order to further our investigation investigation if it comes to that. So thank you for that question. It's a great question. And again, we're certainly focused on our faith-based institutions.
Thank you, Chief. Our next question is going to come from John George in Ward 2. John, your line is unmuted.
This is John George. Thank you for taking our question. Should we expect any increased air surveillance, or has the no-fly zone been increased for this week?
Thank you for that question, George. The no-fly zone, it is in effect. It will be in effect, especially for Inauguration Day. It has not been increased at this moment, but with the number of dignitaries that will be in the city, former presidents, et cetera, I think you can expect to see perhaps increased traffic, increased air traffic. That is certainly a possibility.
All right, thank you, Chief. We're going to go next to Commissioner Schenkel on ANC 2C01. Commissioner, your line is unmuted.
Hi, thanks so much for taking our call today and for providing this opportunity, and thank you all for your service. I know that residents in the downtown area, when they are accessing the restricted area, are supposed to present an ID with the address in order to access their residence. What if they're a renter and don't have that address on their ID? How will they access that area or the restricted area to get to their residence? And during the mayor's press conference this afternoon, it was advised that Secret Service had been in contact with residential buildings in the restricted area, and none of those buildings have heard from Secret Service or have access to the Secret Service personnel who is assigned to their quarter. Can you advise on what they are to do?
Thank you for that question, Commissioner. It's a very good question. So with respect to the IDs, and I'm not sure if Secret Service, if their map is out yet, but there's a green zone and then there's a red zone. The green zone where you see the National Guardsmen posted there. The red zone, which is a little further in, is the real hardened perimeter where vehicles have to be swept. You can have access to the green zone areas, and you really don't even need an ID for that. Just to say to the National Guardsmen, hey, I have business here, I live here, that kind of thing. And I really do think that, in part, this is an exercise of common sense. I mean, clearly, if you come in with a truck loaded down with something, I mean, someone might be, might want to kind of check into that a little bit. But for residents who are just trying to get home from work, if that becomes an issue, what I would encourage you to do, if you do not have contact information for the United States Secret Service, you can request a Metropolitan Police Department personnel who's assigned to the detail. Obviously, you can, call the Metropolitan Police Department 911 or text us at 50411 or call our 727-9099 number, and we'll have an official to respond to that location to connect the Secret Service resource for that particular location to resolve or mitigate any of those issues. I should also add that to get beyond that red perimeter, which is going to be the hardened perimeter, which I'd like to believe that the majority of the places that are in that area are buildings, not too many residents, maybe a few, but in those locations, vehicles will be swept before they go into those locations. There will be a presence there of law enforcement, et cetera. So, we plan to exercise some common sense, but if that does not prevail, please feel free to reach out to us so we can resolve those issues.
Thank you, Chief. Before we go to the next question, I do want to remind everyone we only have a time for a few more questions, but if you have any questions and you haven't been entered into the question queue just yet, you can press 0 now to be entered into that queue. We're going to go to Diane Shates in Ward 6. Diane, your line is unmuted.
Yes, I'm calling from my daughter who lives in Ward 3. Her babysitter takes the metro from northeast Washington over to Cleveland Park, and I wondered if there's going to be extra protection on the metro, if it's considered safe to do that, or if the babysitter should just stay home.
Thank you for that question, Diane. I would say yes, the Metro is safe. Metro Transit, just like the Metropolitan Police Department, they have called in Metro Transit officers from all across the country, from New York and New Orleans, a couple other places. I forget all of the locations, but they will have a contingency of Metro Transit police officers that have been deputized under the authority of our Metro Transit Police Department to work the subway system. So I would say yes, it's safe, and please make sure you pick your loved one is able to get picked up.
And I would also draw attention to there are some station closures that WMATA has announced. And so if you visit Inauguration.dc.gov, some closures began today and additional closures will come into place tomorrow. And so we just want to make sure that residents are familiarizing themselves with those closures at Inauguration.dc.gov. We're going to go next to Stefan Mirevsky. I may have butchered your last name, so I apologize. But Stefan, your line is unmuted.
Hi, good afternoon. Chief Conte, quick question. I'm the general manager of the Capitol Hilton on 16 and K, which is located within the Harden perimeter. In some of my prior assignments in New York City during the United Nations General Assembly, NYPD established checkpoints where vehicles delivering food and linen to the hotel could be swept and allowed access to the hotel in the wee hours of the day, normally prior to 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning. Does MPD plan for such contingencies where deliveries could be delivered, obviously with a pre-screened vehicles, and be able to approach the hotel and drop those?
Thank you for that question, Stephen. So I think the best way for us to address that, the United States Secret Service Police, they do have locations where vehicles are being swept, but I think the best way for us to deal with that is to have someone from United States Secret Service to reach out to the Capitol Hilton, connect with you on any specific concerns or delivery dates that you might have, so that we can resolve those issues in advance of the inauguration.
Thank you, Chief. Let's go to Commissioner Robinson in Ward 7 next. Commissioner, your line is unmuted.
Thank you very much for taking my question. I have a daughter who worked at Reagan National, and she takes 395 to get there. Is there going to be any impairment there getting from Branch Avenue out to 395?
So thank you for that question, Commissioner. So like I said, the traffic situation, that has been changing. So I would just monitor that very closely from Secret Service. Right now, the answer to that question is no. There should not be a problem. 395 is not shut down. People are able to get out to Virginia and back into the city, to get to Branch Avenue, as you mentioned. But depending on what's going on, things could change at some point. And depending on how dire a situation, a decision could be made to close a bridge down. So I would just say to follow, continue to follow the information that's out there. But right now, there should be no impairments. A lot of traffic, but no impairments that would stop them for your daughter from getting to National Airport.
Thank you so much, Chief. We're going to go next to Roberta Human in Ward 3. Roberta, your line is unmuted.
Yes, thank you. I would like to ask, I live across the street from Comet Pizza, and I'm wondering, I know that's been a hot spot in recent years. Do you expect anything to be going on there, or should we be staying clear of that area?
Thank you for your question, Roberta. Right now, there's no information about anything happening at Comet Pizza that we're aware of. I'm certainly familiar with the history there and what went on before. I would just say to our residents of Ward 3 who frequent that area, to certainly be on the lookout for anything that stands out, anything that's out of the ordinary, and certainly reach out to the Metropolitan Police Department if it's something that needs to be checked out. I'm taking my authority to deputize every member of the community to be on the lookout. See something, say something, let us know, let us check it out. But right now, there's no information about any issues there at Comet Pizza.
Thank you, Chief. We're going to go next to Jordan in Ward 4. Jordan, your line is unmuted. Jordan in Ward 4.
Hi, yes, Chief, thank you. I have a question about pedestrian and bicyclist access in these red and green zones. I know the streets themselves are closed to vehicle traffic, but what's your advice to people that want to walk or bike in this area at this time?
Thank you for that question, Jordan. I think your best bet is to walk because you'll be able to get through a magnetometer. Because in order to get access to the red zone, you'll be swept. There'll be a magnetometer, there'll be bag checks and the like, and you're not going to be able to take a bike in there. So I would just say your best opportunity to get down would be to walk down.
Let's go next to Julie in Ward 2. Julie, your line is unmuted.
Yes, hi, thank you. I'm here at Foggy Bottom, and in our neighborhood, there are several hotels. I would say probably 4 to 5, within, maybe like a 3-block area. And because of that, we have a lot of visitors who stay. And on the 6th, very unfortunately, around 6 p.m., somebody had set off an illegal explosive on the median on New Hampshire Avenue, very close to where we were. We had a sign up that said, Biden Harris, which is probably why that happened. But I am concerned because there will be people in our neighborhood who would maybe want to do harm. And so in terms of explosive bombs, are there any additional measures in place to make sure to sweep that, like even prior to the inauguration and then, during the inauguration while they're here, to prevent things like this from happening? I don't know if they did that just to scare us, or is there, maybe testing response times for police, but.
Hi, Julie. Thank you for that question. Yes, there will be many sweeps that will be going on of the area. If, again, I just want to urge the public, if you see something that's out of place, as you know, from the incident on January the 6th, we recovered 2 pipe bombs. And so, I just think it's very important for residents to be on the lookout for anything that might look suspicious, to bring those things to our attention, give us an opportunity to go out, to check it out, to make sure that things are in fact safe. Now, that does not stop a person from, setting off some type of incendiary device, cherry bomb, firecracker, whatever the case may be, in an effort to, bring disruption to a community, that kind of thing. But rest assured, we have capability and are able to respond to neighborhoods to do the things that we need to do from a law enforcement perspective to ensure that our residents are safe.
All right, we have time for just one more question. We're going to go to Tom Sweat in Ward 6. Tom, your line is unmuted.
Good afternoon. I'm the Director of Security for the Mandarin Oriental Hotel, 1330 Maryland Avenue Southwest. This morning, because MPD has had 12th Street and Main Avenue blocked, colleagues were having a very difficult time to get in, even though they had essential letters for our colleagues working here. And now we were concerned about guests coming in from the airport, coming to the Mandarin. What would the procedure be for the guests to be allowed to get through the roadblock so they could get to the hotel?
Thank you for that question, Tom. What I'll do with that, I'll reach out to the Secret Service and just let them know that you are experiencing issues there. I'll have someone to reach out to you, to call you about this, or call the hotel, and hopefully you're there. If not you, then someone in position, or the on-duty manager, to just kind of talk through any issues that we may be having over there. Certainly, we want people who are coming to the hotels, who have legitimate reservations, to be able to to be able to make it to the hotels. Certainly understanding that there will be some disruption. There will not be a straight line from the airport to the hotel, but we want to make sure that they are able to have access, and that that you guys can reasonably communicate that to people with reservations should they call the hotel that you should take this street or that street. And the on-duty guard personnel or MPD personnel would have that information. Hey, when hotel guests for the Mandarin, this is the location that we're giving them to report. So expect a call from someone to reach out to the hotel, sir.
All right, that's all the time we have for today. I do want to thank Chief Conti and Director Rodriguez for being with us today, and thank all of you who have joined us on the phone. I want to remind everyone again, for the most up-to-date information related to inauguration preparations, you can visit Inauguration.dc.gov. I know that one of the prides of us being the home of the federal district is that we do get to enjoy inauguration of our president every 4 years, but we do advise residents to celebrate virtually, stay home, and celebrate virtually. And I'm going to ask Director Rodriguez to, again, remind you of that number for the text messaging alerts. So, Director?
Thank you, Tomas. So once again, the number for real-time text alerts to your phone throughout the inauguration is text 888-777-888-777, and you're going to text INAUG, I-N-A-U-G, INAUG 2021 to 888-777.
All right. Thank you all, everyone. And again, that's inauguration.dc.gov. Thank you.